Here's a practice FRQ7, the hardest question on the AP Music Theory exam. Check out my solution. This bass line is using almost complete stepwise contrary motion, and it supports the melody perfectly. But how did I get there? In this video, I'll walk you through every step of my process so you can write bass lines like this and master FRQ7, how to harmonize a melody. If you're studying AP Music Theory, you know that this question is the hardest one on the test, and it's the only one that gives you any creative freedom. But don't let that fool you. It's not a blank canvas. You're writing like it's the 1790s. And if you're just a theory nerd who's not taking AP Music Theory, you'll get a crash course in understanding how melodies and bass lines fit together seamlessly in the classical style. There are a total of 9 points. 8 of them are objective, things you either got right or wrong. The first phrase is worth 2 points, and the last 2 phrases are worth 3 points each. The final point is subjective, for a truly musical response, and I'll show you how to get it without having an existential crisis about what truly musical even means. Let's get started. First, get your bearings. Analyze what you're given. Here's our question. There are 4 phrases, and the first phrase and a half are done for you. We have to finish this bass line and accompanying Roman numerals. Each phrase ends with a fermata, which must be a proper cadence. We're in the key of D major. It tells you in case you forgot your key signatures. It also tells you to start here in the 4th bar. These are the directions, but let's talk about what they actually mean. They're telling you how to make it musical. It says to write an appropriate cadence at each phrase ending. These are either right or wrong. They're only looking for half cadences or imperfect authentic cadences for the internal phrases, and only a perfect authentic cadence at the end. Melodic interest to the bass line, this means stepwise motion. Vary the motion of the bass line in relation to the soprano, this means contrary motion. Use mostly quarter notes and maybe some half notes and eighth notes, this means we're going to look for places to have the 2 lines do different rhythms. Now, we have to do all of this while also following voice leading and harmonic syntax rules, like no parallel fifths, leading tones and sevenths must resolve properly, etc. We'll come back to this at the end, but what I'm going to show you will help you avoid all of these mistakes. But here's my secret hack. We're going to favor imperfect intervals, thirds and sixths, when choosing which note to put in the bass. Why? We'll automatically avoid parallel or hidden fifths and octaves. Thirds and sixths just sound more interesting and less boring. And this is what 18th century composers actually did. So first let's talk about what that means for our chord options. Every melody note can be harmonized by a bass note a third or sixth below it. A third below scale degree 1 is 6. This could be a root position 6 chord or a 4/6 chord. Most of the time it doesn't matter which one you write, but occasionally it does. For instance, 6 can't go to 1, but 4/6 can. A sixth below scale degree 1 is 3, which can only be a 1/6 chord. Now let's apply this to all 7 scale degrees. We get this set of chords. But we can also rule out a few of these. In this style, the 3, 3/6, and 6/6 chords essentially don't exist. They occur in a very small handful of situations, none of which are relevant to this question, and even if they are, other chords usually work better. The 7 chord is never used in root position in this style, only in first inversion. While this pops up in real music every once in a while, the scoring guidelines for FRQ7 will always dock points if you use it, so forget about it. That leaves us with 10 chords. 1, 1/6, 2, 2/6, 4, 4/6, 5, 5/6, 6, and 7/6. And for the most part, we can move to and from these chords rather freely as long as we resolve any leading tones and avoid syntax errors. 1 chords can go anywhere, 2 chords must go to 5 or 7 chords, 4 chords can go anywhere but 6, 5 chords can only go to 1, 6, or 4/6 chords, 6 can go anywhere but 1, and 7/6 can only go to 1 chords. Now, these 10 chords will be our main palette, but we'll need to include a few more for specific situations, particularly 1/6/4, 5/6/5 and 5/4/2, and 5/5. And I'll explain each of those later. But the key to this is that we're going to look for options such that we maximize stepwise motion, maximize contrary motion, and create occasional rhythmic independence. Now, I'm going to show you the 8 keys to FRQ7. Do these 8 things in this order and this question will practically write itself. Step 1. Final cadence first. The directions say start here. We're not going to do that. We're going to start here at the end. The directions explicitly say to end with a perfect authentic cadence. And that means there is exactly one right answer, root position 5 and root position 1 as the last 2 chords. Don't invert these, that's not a perfect authentic cadence. Your only option is which octave to use. It doesn't really matter, and we can change the octave later if we need to. And there's a good chance that the melody in the final bar goes 3-2-1 or 1-7-1. If that's the case, make the downbeat a cadential 6-4 chord, a 1-6-4. This is always the best answer here. It's what they want, and it always works better than any other option. That's what we have here, so boom, our entire final bar is done. If you see something other than 3-2-1 or 1-7-1 here, leave it blank for now and we'll complete it later. Step 2. Internal cadences. Now put bass notes under the other 2 fermatas. Chances are the soprano notes at each fermata are members of the 5 chord, 5, 7, or 2, and that's what we have here. These all demand root position 5 chords, creating half cadences. Don't invert these and don't try to use a 1 chord under 5. It will either not work or it won't work as well as a 5 chord. These 2 cadences are almost always half cadences. But occasionally you might see the soprano cadence on 3, something like this. If that's the case, put a root position 1 chord under it and precede it with some type of dominant chord, like this, creating an imperfect authentic cadence. Okay, next step. Step 3, the chromatic note. There will be exactly one chromatic note, raised scale degree 4, and it always occurs leading into one of the half cadences. Root position 5 of 5 is usually what you want here, with the bass on scale degree 2. There are a few other more advanced options, but I'll save that for another video. Root position 5 of 5 always works. Done. Step 4, harmonize scale degree 3 with 1 and 6 with 4. This might sound heavy-handed, but trust me, this will always work and will usually be the best choice. And if it's not, we'll discover better options later. For now, harmonize every scale degree 3 with a root position 1 chord and every scale degree 6 with a root position 4 chord. If we look back at our chord options, these are the only scale degrees with only one bass note option, since the 3, 3-6, and 6-6 chords aren't really used. That means a root position 1 chord is the only option for scale degree 3. And scale degree 6 can use both a root position 4 or a 2-6 chord, but both of those have the same bass note, scale degree 4, and the 4 chord has fewer restrictions than 2-6. And since we're only writing the bass note and not the alto or tenor, the 4 chord will always be the safer choice. Step 5. Harmonize scale degrees 4-3 and 7-1 with each other. Now we're getting to the fun stuff. Pairing these 2 patterns will instantly create an inverted 5-7 chord that correctly resolves, and the interval between the first 2 notes will be the correct use of a tritone. When the soprano moves 7-1 and the bass moves 4-3, we get a 5-4-2 chord moving to 1-6. And when the soprano moves 4-3 and the bass moves 7-1, we get a 5-6-5 chord moving to a root position 1. And look, they already did one of these in the second phrase. It's like the clues are already here. Most people only try to use consonances for this question. Using a dissonance is a boss move. Step 6. Voice exchange. Voice exchange is when 2 voices switch places, like when one voice moves from scale degree 3 to 1 and the other moves from 1 to 3 at the same time. This is the simplest type of voice exchange. The 2 notes harmonize with each other and the resulting chords are 1 and 1-6. This can also happen in reverse, 1-6 to 1. You can also fill in the gap with a passing tone on scale degree 2 in one or both voices. These are all variations of the same technique. The first phrase they wrote for you actually already has 2 examples of this right in a row. The first example has both passing tones filled in, and in the second one, the soprano leaps 1 to 3 while the bass fills it in 3-2-1. And we already did this once here by following our previous steps. There's one more place the soprano moves 3 to 1 here, so let's put the bass on 3 using a 1-6 chord. You'll want to add these 1 and 1-6 chords using voice exchange everywhere you can. These chords are kind of like free passes because they can move freely to and from each other, and they can also move to any other chord. It's also possible to use voice exchange on any other Roman numeral that you can use both its root position and first inversions. For us, that means 2 and 2-6, 4 and 4-6, and 5 and 5-6. Let's keep that in our back pocket if we need it, because sometimes other options work better as we move on to the next step. Step 7, fill in the blanks. Look at this, we only have 5 more notes to write. Remember, we want to choose imperfect intervals, so let's show the thirds and sixths below the soprano in each space, and then look for places that create contrary and stepwise motion. Let's start with the bottom system in bar 5. On beat 3, the E is a step away from the D before it, and the B is a third away. Both good options. The E would make parallel motions between beats 2 and 3, and the B would result in contrary motion, so let's choose B. That leaves us with one good option for the next beat, the C sharp, which connects by step to the B and to the D in the next bar. We also end up with more contrary motion from beats 3 to 4, and then 2 parallel thirds leading into the next bar. Let's add the chords. Scale degree 6 in the bass with 4 on the soprano is a 4-6 chord, and 7 in the bass and 2 in the soprano is a 5-6 chord. That makes a 1, 4-6, 5-6, 1 progression, which is great. Now for bar 7. We could spend a lot of time on this bar, but this is where memorizing common patterns comes in handy. I know that scale degrees 3, 4, 5 in the melody work great with the progression 1, 4, 6, 1, 6, which is one of my favorite moves called the champagne progression. The intervals are all imperfect and the motion is completely contrary, and this 1-6 chord at the end links up perfectly with the 4 chord on beat 4. There is a leap of a fourth from B to F sharp, but that's totally okay. It's part of what gives this progression some interest. This bar is done. Okay, now just one more note, the one they told us to do first. Here's the thing with this one. You can use all the tricks I taught you to fill it in, but we're also at the mercy of what they already did. In this case, they ended with a 5-6 chord here with the bass on the leading tone, so we actually don't have any choice of what to do. This must be a root position 1 chord because the bass has to move to 1. That actually makes the interval here a 5th, not a 3rd or a 6th. But don't worry, the interval before it is a 6th and after it is a 3rd, so no crimes were committed. Alright, look at that. Every space is filled in. We could stop here, but we can make this even better. Step 8, passing tones. Look for any leaps of a 3rd in the bass. We can fill those in with passing tones in 8th notes, which will create more rhythmic independence between the parts. We actually have quite a few in bars 5, 6, and 7. And watch this. Boom. Look at all this stepwise motion. That's almost completely contrary as well. The entire third phrase is stepwise, and the last phrase only has 2 leaps. Fantastic. We're done. This is perfect. This is 9-point material. Let's hear it again. The harmony is logical, the cadences are clear, the voice leading is elegant, and it breathes like real 18th century music. This is how you earn that extra point for a truly musical response. Now, let's just go back and check our work. Let's bring up that list of voice leading rules. First, let's check for parallel fifths and octaves. This is easy because we barely wrote any. In fact, apart from the cadences, the only one we wrote was the one that we were forced to write at the start. We're good here. Let's check our leading tones. Did we write any? Yes, we have 2 C-sharp quarter notes, and they both resolve up to D, and we have one that we used as a passing tone, and none of them are doubled in the soprano. Check. No 6/4 chords except pedal, passing, and cadential. We only used one, the cadential 6/4, at the end, and this is the one and only place you should use this chord. Check. No unresolved chordal sevenths. That's scale degree 4 when it's part of a 5/7 chord, and we only wrote one, the 5/4/2, which resolves correctly down to 3. But we also have to make sure that any G's in the soprano step down to 3 if they're part of a 5/7 chord. And we did that too. Check. No cross relations. What even is that? That's when you have a chromatic note in one voice and the other voice plays the same letter name with a different accidental. What that means for us is on the soprano's G sharp in bar 4, the chord before or after it can't contain a G natural in the bass. We didn't write any G naturals here, so we're good. No root position 7 chords. Check, we didn't use any 7 chords. No inappropriate leaps. We only have 3 leaps in the bass, in bars 4, 7, and 8. They're all leaps of a perfect fourth, which is fine, and it's even better if you can follow those up with steps in the opposite direction afterwards, which we did. Now let's look at bar 6. First of all, you actually don't even have to think about connecting the note under the fermata with the note that starts the next phrase. Those things are considered totally independent. But if we wanted to, isn't a leap of a sixth really big? You're actually allowed to use leaps of a sixth as long as they step in the opposite direction afterwards, which this does. Next item, only use 3 of the same interval in a row. This is actually a really good one to check because it's easy to write too many thirds in a row. That's why progressions involving first inversion chords like 1-6, 4-6, and 5-6 are really useful. The 6 can help break up too many thirds. We only have 2 thirds in a row, so we're good here. Use correct harmonic syntax. This is another important one to check. Let's bring up our syntax chart from before. We surprisingly only used 1, 4, and 5 chords in this question, so we just have to make sure we didn't write any 5 chords that go to root position 4 chords. And we didn't, they all go to 1 chords. And lastly, no repeated bass notes or Roman numerals from weak to strong beats. This means that the bass shouldn't have the same note and the same chord on beats 2 and 3 of the same bar, or beat 4 and beat 1 of the next bar. This creates an unwanted, syncopated harmonic rhythm. Our only repeated bass note is in the final bar at the cadence on beats 1 and 2, so we're good. There you have it, a fully harmonized FRQ7 that hits all 9 points. Accurate, logical, and musical, and we double checked it, and it sounds great. Don't freak out when you get to this question. Remember that musicality is all about stepwise motion, contrary motion, and rhythmic independence, all connecting mostly imperfect intervals of thirds and sixths, plus proper cadences at each phrase ending. And the 8 steps are final cadence, internal cadences, chromatic note, harmonize scale degree 3 with 1 and 6 with 4, harmonize scale degrees 4, 3, and 7, 1 with each other, voice exchange between 1 and 3, fill in the blanks, and passing tones. Head over to the College Board website to see some previous FRQ7s. The link is in the description. And try completing some of these with my method. I guarantee it will help you complete this question faster and more accurately than ever before. Try it and let me know how you did in the comments. Hit like and subscribe for more tips on passing the AP Music Theory exam with confidence. I'm Dr. Fromm. See you in the next video. And hey, just for fun, let's hear what this thing would sound like in 4 voices.